All right, so we're talking about kind of reinventing how we look at submissions and how we acquire submissions. But I'll preface this by saying the old way is the best way, right? What I mean is pinning somebody, controlling them, separating a limb, and then hyperextending that limb is by far the best way to win. Okay, this is proven for 100 years of jiu-jitsu and thousands of years of grappling, right? And so pin, dominate, separate, and submit. But oftentimes we have to look at things a little bit out of order, okay? And so oftentimes I will catch the end range of a submission first. It has benefits and it has downfalls, okay? The benefit of it is once Leia knows she's in trouble, her defenses are heightened, all right? Which means my work to finish that submission becomes crazy hard, right? Great example is if I have an armbar from like a side mount, like a mounted armbar, just lean it back. And we end up in a spiderweb position and she knows it's coming and now she has a good grip. Yeah, there's plenty of ways for me to grip break from here, but it's significantly easier to armbar her if she never has a chance to get that grip, okay? So if I can isolate this arm before I move to a controlling position, then I've won the last battle first. Does that make sense? I'm lazy, so I want to have as much efficiency as possible in my grappling. But again, there's risk to this because all offense costs some defense. If I'm strictly defensive, I can shell up and I'm fine. Okay? Preet's great at this. Where Preet kind of tends to have difficulties in his rounds is when he's offensive. Because when you're offensive, you have a hard time being defensive. So if I can catch you while you're being offensive, make that my offense, I've kind of cheated a little bit. And that's my goal, right? So the first way we're introduced to this typically is through a Kimura trap system, right? The Kimura trap system allows me to grab a Kimura grip and then move my body around you while I already have the finishing mechanics, okay? So let's start with that. The important thing here is understanding that my number one principle in guard play jiu-jitsu is very simple, but nobody ever says it out loud, right? It's a very, very simple rule. I've got arms plus a head, and I have legs. These are two independent teams of things that have to work together doing opposite actions, okay? If my arms are clamping onto you, my legs can move around you. If my legs are clamping you, my arms can move around you. If arms and legs clamp, I have complete control. If arms and legs move, I have complete chaos. All three of these things can be good at certain times. But typically, as we start to acquire dominant positions and submissions, we move them separate. And we go clamp, move, clamp, move, clamp, move. Okay? So if I want to do like an arm drag to the back, that's probably the best way to highlight this concept. Right now I have my legs clamping Leia. If I open my legs, she can move freely. If I clamp my legs and clamp her upper body, she cannot move, but I also have no progression towards offense. This is complete control, which is good sometimes. If I want to do an arm drag to the back take, I clamp with the legs until I have an upper body connection I want to use. And I clamp. Well, now my legs can move. Now my legs can clamp, so my arms can move. All right? Then my arms can clamp, and my legs can move. If at any point in that process, my arms relax whilst my legs are moving, she will escape. Yeah? Doesn't get much simpler than that. If we think about that all the time, we're going to have higher success. So the problem with Kimura trap is we often forget about this. We catch our Kimura, and then we relax our arms as our legs are moving. And this is where our opponent can create separation, create posture, and make our submission attempt fail. So we're going to catch a Kimura from half guard bottom. And what I want to do is think about this. If I have a rotational axis with my upper body, my arms on her arm, I have to have an opposing action at the other end of the joint, either her hip or her shoulder, okay? If there's no opposing action, she just rolls with the tension. There is no break. So I need something here stopping her from going with her arm in this direction. So all I'm trying to do is get to a spot there. And yes, I can clamp this inside leg and I can rip this Kimura out and rotate it, but she has lots of mobility here. So with Kimura trap, we often release the body, swing it on the top side, and put a hip clamp on. Okay? The problem is, once I've released this leg clamp, she's free to move, which means this arm clamp has to get stronger. So I try to get her as posture controlled as possible by dropping my armpit on her shoulder, and I want to straighten her arm between her legs. Okay? This straight arm position allows my inner arm to control her shoulder and keep her from posturing too much. And then I can simply unwind my legs. I have the end of the submission. I separate how I need to. I start stepping over. Sorry, my hip is not very mobile right now. Right? And now I have the clamp I need. Now I can go to a leg clamp and separate and then start to get my finish. Right? We're going to do 3 positions today, but this is probably the one we've all seen the most. Okay? So we won't spend a ton of time on it. I don't care how you guys get to a finish. I don't care if you armbar, if you Kimura, or if you wrist lock, or if you triangle. But start off in half guard bottom Kimura. Move your body to a different position that allows you to have the correct mechanics for a break of some kind, and play with that. But nothing you do is wrong. Just play with it. Give me like 5 minutes, please. All right, ready? Go. Okay, so they call this ecological dynamics. Not really. No. But there's no lesson there, right? This was just playing and just getting uncomfortable with this idea that I'm going to catch the end range first and add progression later on. I don't like this. Right? I'm not a big fan of Kimura trap. We talked about this in my first class. I'm not a big fan of Kimuras. I can make them work in different ways, but for me, this is the easiest way to kind of give you this idea, this message of connect to an arm or a leg first, and then find the body manipulation secondary, okay? We're gonna use 2 different main positions today. The first is gonna be a shotgun armbar, which is my favorite submission to do, I think, between that and a mirror lock. And then the second we're gonna do is a heel hook, okay? Both of them we're gonna catch the end range first, hopefully stop our training partners from getting to a defensive position, and then move to a good breaking position, okay? This one will be more taught as opposed to just go play. Yeah. So we're looking for a couple scenarios. The primary thing I'm looking for is for the top player to use their the trailing arm. I'll call this the leading arm because it usually leads forward. Right. This is the trailing arm to either touch anywhere between my hip and my armpit. Right. This is always going to be a good place for me if she touches me here. Okay. The challenge becomes, if I have this parallel spine position, she has no incentive to try to touch me there, okay? So this is bad for her. So how can I make this better for her? I can get closer to her and allow her to come closer to me, okay? Then if she puts her hand anywhere into this zone, I can start my submission from here, okay? So I'm low on the hip or high up on the armpit. Doesn't matter if it is a shallow, like fingertip grip, or if it is a deep underhook. Either way is going to be okay with me, okay? All I'm looking to do is use my thumb and my middle finger to wrap around just above the bottom 2 bones in her arm, right? Just like this. So we have our radius and our ulna, and we have our humerus. I'm going to get right at the base of that humerus, right on top of the forearm bones. I'm going to pinch as tight as I possibly can. I like to use these 2 fingers. I like to have my index finger kind of facing up towards her armpit. And for me, this gives me the best control of her arm. But more importantly, it gives me the best indication of where her arm is pointing. And that's really important later on, okay? I don't want to try to control her arm. I want to know where the elbow pit is so I can line up my body around that to hyperextend through that joint, okay? So I typically would have a foot on the hip, or I'll have half guard with a shin shield. The second she touches my rib area, I grab, I move myself away. All right? Once we're here, we have to test this a little bit. I want to see how strong we can make this grip. The goal would be that just this grip between my armpit clamping and my fingers pinching, she can't have her arm back. I'm trying to control that really, really tough. Okay? So we're going to test this all the way to failure. Meaning I want her to do everything in her power to strip this grip. There are no rules. Don't poke my eyes out. But there are really no rules. Like, just get your arm back. So, yeah, pull your arm back. Okay. Now we do it again. She puts it in there. I get a better grip. Okay, go. Oh, that's better. Yeah. It will fail. It's impossible to hold it forever. We're trying to gain seconds, right? If I can get 1, 2, 3 seconds, that buys me the time I need to start wrapping my legs around them, okay? So we're playing a sideways open guard position, half guard, or foot on the hip with a knee shield. We're looking for that touching anywhere between my hip bone and my armpit. I'm gonna grab the back of the arm. I'm gonna pinch my lat down nice and strong and see how long I can hold that. If it fails immediately, try something different. If it succeeds the first try, try something different, okay? Don't count your win as the only win you can have. Play with it. If you have an immediate win, work to a loss, meaning fail quicker, and just play with it. Play with different feelings, right? Learn how it feels the best for you. Switch top bottom, play with it again, and we'll add more later on. Okay? One more time, or are we good? It's easy, right? One more good? Okay. So, it's okay. All I care about is getting close enough where she feels comfortable touching me. I'm gonna grab the back of her arm and pinch. That's it, right? My index finger is kind of pointing straight towards her armpit. I like that the best. It might be different for you. I don't know, right? I'm gonna pinch nice and tight. I think about trying to explode her hand with my armpit power, right? It won't work, but I try. I just hold nice and tight. She pulls her arm back. She should win pretty quickly. That's okay. Yeah?
And your left foot's on hip.
I don't care yet. Yeah. I mean, theoretically, we should be drilling this just from here to isolate this movement. We're kind of moving quicker today, though. So use your legs however you want to use them. Yeah. Let's do it. Ready? Okay, so we're catching the end of the submission first, but our body's out of position for any kind of finish yet, right? That's okay, we're working there. I have to understand that I have to have control over the end of the arm, the wrist, and control over the shoulder to add hyperextension to the elbow. So how do I start controlling where her shoulders are going? Okay, I have a couple different options for that. The first thing, I can move myself to a traditional armbar shape. The second is I can pin her hips down and anchor her to the mat, right? I use both options for different reasons. If I get to this good clamp position because she puts her arm on my armpit, and I can sit her down, I can reinforce with my leg here, right? But don't forget, if I'm moving my legs, my arms get very strong here, okay? In this scenario, I'm using one arm, not two arms, but that's nice because it gives me a problem-solving arm. I have a clamping arm. This arm is gonna float free. It only problem solves. So she goes to grab my leg, I can take it off. I can wrist fight from here. I can control. I can start keeping this nice and tight. The second I move my legs while relaxing my arm, she's gone, okay? So the first thing we're gonna do is figure out how to anchor the shoulder, because she would love to go this direction and like the arc to bend her arm. So if I just put the pressure on, she just bends it. So how do I stop that from happening, right? I drive my feet down and I rotate her elbow up to the ceiling, okay? I want her elbow pit, the inside her ditch here, facing up to the ceiling. What I desperately want to avoid is her head dropping to the mat, okay? I can still make a finish from here, but every time she moves with the tension, I have to continue to move, right? Movement usually helps her, okay? Space is a friend of the defender, never of the offensive player. So I want to keep space from moving, right? Or keep her from moving. So I'm going to turn her so that she looks up. Yeah? Now it should be definitely hard to drop her head to the mat. I'm going to push down my legs, create an anchor via this hip. I'm just going to hip through it. My hand is reinforced by my inner thigh, but I'm still very strong here. Okay? Ultimately, the pressure is not vertical. The pressure is not horizontal. It's not at a 45. The pressure mirrors her elbow location. So I can't blindly add pressure. I see which way her elbow is pointing, and I go that direction. So ideally, I would locate it up and hip up. If it goes towards the camera, I go towards the camera. If it goes towards the mat, I go towards the mat. So our only job now is to hold this position without submitting my training partner. I want to create 99% break tension. I want to be right at the threshold where she feels uncomfortable but safe. I'm going to let her move around. My job is to stay with her for a few seconds. Okay? I'm going to clamp a hold of this. I'm going to extend the arm without hyperextending it, and she's going to move. I'm going to look. I'm going to follow. I'm going to redirect and just kind of surf with her. Letting her move, but also controlling the angle of the elbow and just see what it feels like to follow that, right? See if you can identify the location of the break pressure. Does that make sense? Let's do that. All right, ready? All right, now the hardest part, right? Now I'm going to continue around to where I'm in a good belly down armbar position. The hardest part here is people don't know when to be loose enough to move their body, but tight enough to not lose the arm. That's kind of the nuance of it. So I'm going to be very, very tight to Leia's arm. I'm going to control her elbow the exact same way. I'm going to move myself towards the belly down position. But ultimately, my goal is to put the back of my hand, which is holding the ball, like the point of her elbow, onto my belly button. Okay? I gotta move myself from here to here. If I get too tight, I'm gonna make her do a forward roll. Okay? If she does a forward roll, we have a losing battle. Okay? We started a scramble that I don't think I can win. Right? I got to cover her face then from a bad spot, and that's difficult to do. So what I mean is, if I continue with this pressure, and I'm too tight, and I move, so drive forward into me, here, and I take her through a forward roll, we end up here. Okay? And now I can still finish some from here. But if I added tons of movement, her odds of escape are better. Okay? If I'm receiving a submission, if you're submitting me, my goal is chaos. Right? I don't want to be stationary. My goal is movement because I can find an escape within that movement. So how do we do that? I got to be tight enough with my armpit, but understand that my hand is going to move like this, and my body is going to carve around her. Okay? So our goal is make your partner not do a forward roll and finish a belly down armbar. So all I'm going to do is clamp, start moving. Right? If I get too tight here, right, I can still save this, but that's a pretty shitty armbar. Right? That's super inefficient. So I've caught the end of the submission first. I'm extra tight with my grip, but allowing my body to free flow around her, aligning, clamping, and then moving to a good break position. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Let's see if we can do it at that like extreme end of comfort, right? It shouldn't be comfortable. When I drill, it's never super comfortable. She'll tell you that everything hurts, but it's pain, not injury. Huge difference there, okay? This is gonna be uncomfortable, and that's okay. We're here, we know what we're doing. No one's new to this. Everything here is uncomfortable. But so be tight, be strong without injury. Make sense? Also, talk to your training partners. That first drill is important because it's a very, very hard technique. We're trying to problem solve together and I can't help you. This is the same. Talk to your partner, work out the problem, tell them why they failed, tell them why they were successful. Every drill should be a conversation. Okay? Let's do it. Ready? Okay, so we have 1 hour. I get to see you guys for maybe 2 hours per year. My goal is never to have you guys master a new technique. All right? My challenge as a coach at these camps is to mask an important concept within a easy delivery, okay? So the concept here is catching the end of the submission, moving your body around. How you guys practically apply that in 45 minutes is irrelevant to me, right? Don't focus on that. This is an idea. This isn't a well thought out, rep it out 1,000 times, be perfect technique, okay? The last thing we're gonna do is a heel hook, okay? Heel hooks is kind of where this idea really came into like affluence, where guys were realizing that I can get to double trouble and I can control double trouble almost indefinitely, but the separation is when the person will escape. So when you separate legs and look for the heel, that's when people escape. So if I can capture a heel first and then find a way to wrap my body around your hips and control you, then I have a much cleaner access to a finish, right? So for me, doing a backside 50-50 entry from knee on belly bottom has been very successful. But I'll preface this by saying, I don't want you to pull knee on belly bottom, okay? Not ideal. It's still not a great thing to do. But the very first thing I said in this seminar was, the old way is the best way, right? This is a new way that has risks to it. And this is not gonna be my A game. When I high five knuckles, my plan is not to go from an inferior position and then submit you. My plan is to dominate you, okay? This is when things are looking like I need more options, okay? Bottom, knee on belly, gives me great access to her heel, all right? So this leg for her is in danger. It has pretty easy access because the heel is elevated. So all I'm gonna do is move myself towards that heel and capture it. Yeah? So now I have the heel where I need to be. But now how do I wind myself around her? So pop up off your left knee. Come off your left knee. Yeah, there you go. I'm gonna walk this hand to her arm, or to her leg. Walk my legs away until I'm under this leg. All right? Now all I have to do is move my outside leg in between. If I try to move my inside leg in, she's in the way, and it actually requires quite a bit of flexibility. But my backside 50-50 leg goes in pretty easily. Okay? So what happens is, go from a guard passing position. She passes guard and stomps on me so hard. I went, huh! Right? I capture the heel. I move to the inside. I do a mini little backward roll. I'm gonna look towards her head as I do this. My leg comes in, and here's our break. It's your fastest way to go from losing to winning. I love it. And people hate it. Yeah? So, when it happens faster, right? She passes, and we're on the heel hook right away. Yeah? Same idea. I catch the foot first, then move my hips around. If my orientation is not correct, it'll always feel like I'm not flexible enough, right? I can't do this. Angles solve flexibility issues, almost always. Okay, come back up. The angle now solves the problem. The more I can get myself at a good angle, now it's pretty easy. Conceptually, okay. Not perfect, but fun. Any questions? Cool, let's try that one. All right, ready?
To which direction?
Coming underneath, so you want this leg to come in between this leg.
Right,
Yeah.
Cool. So, 3 completely separate scenarios with the same kind of concepts in our mind, right? And again, the goal is not to have you guys master or even learn these 3 scenarios, right? My job is to mask a concept within a delivery tool, right? So you guys learned that I can clamp the end of it and then move my body around. And we also learned that if my arms are clamping, my legs can be moving. If my legs are clamping, my arms can be moving. If everything moves, it's just chaos, okay? So try to take these things into other parts of your jiu-jitsu. Don't take these things as literal applications of new plan A in your game. These are things that you can divide and separate and then put into what you currently do. The goal is to have you guys learn concepts, not techniques, right? Techniques have points of failure. Concepts tend to be true across the board. And we're fighting. We're not playing a scripted art. I have to be willing to kind of freestyle a little bit. And that's where the concepts really come into play. Every time you're grappling, be aware of what's going on. Be aware of what your body's doing. And have less of a step-by-step structure in mind and more of a flow yourself to a victory. Okay? Are there any questions on any of this stuff? Or all the questions on all the stuff? Hopefully it's all the questions. It should just blow your mind. But I'm not rolling a lot. I'm rolling some more today, but not rolling a ton this week. But I'm more than happy to help all of you guys with anything and everything. If you have questions about any part of jiu-jitsu, fantastic. Cool? Yeah. Thank you guys. Can we get a picture? Yeah? All right, let's go. Thank you.